insurance, who doesn't cover anything else on me, right? That's just another legal right issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's another thing. Right, let's go ahead and get started on the recap. So welcome to Jainendra, welcome to Jainism worldwide virtual classroom. We are currently doing stress management workshop from Jain perspective, and we have had 8 sessions so far. This is session 9. We are going to do a little bit of recap today, and then after the recap, actually, we are going to show some demonstration of some of the apps and some video and audio books on Jainism that we are making. And after that, we will continue into our session. Okay. So far what we had initially, to begin with, we had covered the definition of, we had started to explore the definition of stress from a modern medical point of view, who are from other disciplines, and we had no luck virtually come up with a objective, comprehensive definition of stress, right? So then what we had done is that we started studying some Jain fundamentals, and then once we finished studying those Jain fundamentals, we came back and we redefined stress from Jain perspective. So then we have this definition of stress from Jain perspective, and then that's what we had been studying. So after we studied that definition, we covered some aspects: what is positive and negative stress, what are the different stages of stress, and then we looked into what are the causes of stress. So now we are in the causes of stress. So in the causes of stress, first we were talking about state of extreme stress, which is of 2 types. One is uncontained extreme stress, another one is contained extreme stress. So in the uncontained extreme stress, we saw that along with the wrong beliefs and the intense kashayas, there is also what's involved called 5 great unethical, immoral, and violent behavior, which is called 5 mahapap in Jainism. And also, there are 7 great addictions, 7 main addictions that a person can fall into in that state, which is basically 7 saptagasan according to Jainism. We talked about that last time. But today, now we're going to look into something we mentioned last time, that we are going to look into something that's even more dangerous than 7 main addictions and this 5 main violent and unethical and moral behaviors by Mahabharata. So what could it be? What could it be that is even more dangerous than this? And why is it so dangerous? And what is that root cause? That's what we are going to study today. So let's see who else is here today right now. Saurabh here? Saurabh? People aren't here yet. Okay, all right. Let's continue in our session a little bit until people show up. And then once more people show up, then we will go into the demonstration. Let me share my screen. This is the chart that we were looking at. So as you can see, in a state of extreme stress, what's common is this intense passions, what's called anantanubandhi kashayas in Jainism, and wrong belief mithyatva, which is the root cause of contained and uncontained stress. Today, we are going to cover something called mithyatva. So first of all, look at this kashayas and mithyatva in summary. So what are these prime or absolute causes of stress? First 4 are basically wrong belief, mithyatva, and they're basically, we're going to cover into more detail. We're just summarizing the names here. Belief of astitva or existence or oneness, basically who am I? Second one is a belief of mamatva or ownership, basically who a person doesn't understand what he can call his and what's his and what's not his in reality. Third one is belief of kartritva. So basically understanding of a person, basically about what's in person's control and what's really not in control. And fourth one is belief of bhoktrutva, suffering. Basically, the understanding what a person can truly enjoy, what a Jew really truly can enjoy, and what not enjoy. These are the foundation. It's kind of like a root of the tree that exists, and due to that, everything else, these kashayas occur. The 5, 6, 7, and 8 are the kashayas, basically lobh and rag, dvesh, greed and attachment. We have just combined it into one category right for now. And gurutva and lagutva, which is man kashaya, which is superiority or inferiority. And krodh, which is anger, and maya, which is deceit. So these are the 4 different type of kashayas that exist on the root of those wrong beliefs. Okay. Now, when you have these 4 type of kashayas, all these other things, when they go into certain level, then when they go into uncontained state, then we are going to bound to have this 5 mahapap, 5 moral and unethical behavior, and 7 addictions. And so in reality, you can see the whole sense of events here. Person is having this wrong belief, continuously having, right? But it's not that only when we think about those beliefs we have them. Even when we don't think about them, they exist. Right? Similarly, these kashayas doesn't mean that only when we think about our car or BMW or Mercedes, then and then we have a attachment or lobe towards it. Even when we are not thinking about it consciously, we have those kashayas. So they are there, although we recognize them or not. Some of them we don't even recognize them, right? Some of them we do recognize that we have it. But since we haven't analyzed ourselves in detail, we sometimes don't even recognize some of these kashayas. So now what we are going to do is, one by one, going to look into every single thing. First of all, let's see who is here now. Okay, who else have joined?
Prerit, Siddharth here.
Okay, Siddharth is here. Anyone else?
Prerit, Ankita here too.
Okay, Ankita here. Vishal here. Vishal really wanted to join, see our demonstration. Okay, all right. So I think let's go ahead and step into our demonstration. But I wanted Saurabh here too. Saurabh is not here too. What should we do? Ketan, Pritesh, what should we do? Should we go ahead without? I mean, Saurabh isn't here. I really wanted him. He was going to talk about.
I think you need to wait for Saurabh.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll wait for Saurabh, and then once he shows up, then we can go into demonstration. Okay, all right. So one fundamental question is, why is this mithyatva so dangerous? Why are we calling it so dangerous? Even more dangerous than 7 main addictions and 5 mahapaps. Why is so? I mean, if you think about it, those activities are real, right? We know that they are actually, those wrong activities are ruining person's life. And this is just about a belief, right? What difference does it make whether person has wrong or right belief? I mean, as long as he's not in that wrong state of activities. So, I mean, why is it even called, this is called more dangerous than those 7 activities or 7 main addictions and 5 mahapap? Is there a reason for it? Anyone?
Well, if you don't have the right understanding or right belief, you may not be in the wrong state right now, but you have the potential to be.
Yes, that's one answer. What else?
It is the root cause of everything, basically.
Yes, that's true. That's also another answer. It's a root cause of everything. That's there. Anything else? Okay, so let me give you one other perspective. Okay, so a person who is going through those 7 addictions and 5 violent, unethical, immoral behavior, will, even when he or she is going through it, will know that, deep down their heart, that this is wrong. I shouldn't probably be doing it. If someone were to catch me, if society were to catch me, I'll be in jail or I will be in trouble. My family may not like it. So person has some level of understanding that it is wrong, right? That, is that right? Most of the time, when we commit immoral or unethical behavior, we know deep down the heart that this is not right. But mithyatva, wrong belief, person doesn't even know that this exists. Person just thinks that, yeah, what I believe is correct, what I know is right. So it doesn't even know that this exists. That's very, very dangerous because we don't even know what's the real causes. Second thing is, a person who is committing those crimes or those immoral, unethical behaviors, basically, society can see it and point it out. Hey, don't do this. Or if you do this, you'll be in trouble. We'll take you in jail. This and that. This mithyatva, not a person cannot recognize for himself, nor can others see it that this is there. So no one would know that this is there, and this is in fact, as Pritesh pointed out, the root cause, which is in turn giving rise to the kashayas, and in turn, kashayas basically lead us to those behaviors. This is extremely dangerous. Third point I want to bring about is, even when you look at the study that's going on in the Jain society, most of the Jain society, if you look at it, they talk about those behaviors very much in detail. That we shouldn't do this, we shouldn't do that, we shouldn't kill the animals, we shouldn't consume alcohol, this and that. Even within the Jain society nowadays, if you will notice that people hardly talk about mithya. People hardly even think about these behaviors or beliefs. And what are these beliefs? So these are so fundamental that fundamentals are virtually forgotten. So I mean, that's the reason that they don't even come up for discussion. And since they don't even come up for discussion, we never seem to understand them well. And that makes them so dangerous that they always remain them. And like for example, you may try to change this first, okay? 5 moral behavior and 7 addictions. Now, let me give one example. I grew up in Gujarat, so up until like age of 16, I did not even know a single person around me who was not a vegetarian. Okay, so vegetarianism was by choice for me. Okay, I mean not by choice, sorry, by inherent. I mean I inherited that vegetarianism, and there was no question of basically doing anything with non-vegetarianism because it was just not a thought that I had to even give it. I didn't even have to think about it because there was no one I knew who was not a vegetarian. Now, if you think about kids growing up in this country, from the very early age, they have to basically know what's right, what's not right, why we do this, and they have to make a conscious choice. And it's not, they don't, I mean, they do inherit this from family, but they don't necessarily inherit that from society. So what I'm trying to say is that if this understanding isn't clear, then there is a chance that person may someday, I see a lot of kids that in in early days, they accept these principles on the ground of morality, but as they grow up, the appeal of morality goes away. And when the appeal of morality goes away, then what happens? And there is a complete danger of getting into these activities. I'll give you just one example. Okay, so although I grew up in Gujarat, and I did not even know a single person who was non-vegetarian until age 16. When I came to this country at age 18, I worked in a Taco Bell actually. And at that time I was not into studying Jainism. I did not really think much about these principles. I did not have any philosophical or other understanding about Jainism. So I was getting a job at Taco Bell. I did not even give it a thought that okay, I'm basically committing this 5 great immoral, unethical, and violent behavior. One of them basically, And basically, I accepted the job. I did not give it a thought. So there is a danger that if we don't have a proper understanding about Mithyatva and this fundamental philosophical concepts, then even though person may initially try to mitigate these behaviors by other means, there is a danger of getting into this behavior, getting into them back. That's why it is very, very important. Any questions?
It is like being under the influence of alcohol and not knowing it.
Yes, yes, very much like that. We are under influence, we don't know about it. Well, let's see who else have joined the call. Saurabh is here. Okay, Saurabh is not here. Okay, all right, we will continue in the Mithyatva. The first one is a belief about one's astitva or oneness. Basically, who am I? Question central here is who am I and who am I not? So if you think about it, one of the biggest fear of any living being has in life is the fear of death. And that's also one of the kashayas, basically, stems from the kashayas. But what is the primary cause of the fear of death? Anyone? What's the primary reason? Why are we so much afraid of death?
Yes, it's the most painful thing ever.
Most painful thing, yes, that's true.
And of
We
course,
think,
emotional stuff attached.
Mm-hmm. All right.
we think
Because we think we are the body and that's going to disappear.
Yes, we think we are body. That's another answer. Yes, we think we are body. We believe we are body. Our whole existence that we know of, as we know of, is through our body, right? We know ourselves that we exist as body. So this becomes a question of existence. We think that if my body goes away, and my entire my existence will be wiped off, and we won't exist. So this fear of existence is the biggest fear, and that comes from this belief about a person has about what he thinks of himself. So in the state of mithya darshan, in the state of wrong belief, this person thinks himself as a body. Whatever the body that he has gotten, the body includes our physical body, my speech, basically our all the organs, our senses, and everything, and all of our other existence, all of our other uh, world that we know of, our belongings, our house, our family, those relationships exist through our body, and we are attached to not only our body but everything else as well. So basically, we think that if our body goes away, our entire existence will be wiped off. So there are two types of wrong belief about existence: belief about losing existence altogether. So we either think that if I die, I won't exist. I won't simply exist at all. Or sometimes, if person does believe in reincarnation, then sometimes person may have belief. If person doesn't believe himself as a soul and still believes himself as a body, person may have a belief about losing his identity or form or current shape, to some other unwanted form or unknown form. That's also a fear of unknown there, the wrong belief. So the key question is, who am I and who am I not? So do you all agree that we have this wrong belief? Or anyone has a difficult time grasping this wrong belief? Anyone has a difficult time? Does it sound too philosophical or does it sound real? Especially after seeing the video. Anyone saw that documentary about a Scottish boy that we have posted on the website about reincarnation by Dr. Jim Tucker?
Yeah, I saw it a long time ago though.
Okay, good. So after seeing this documentary, hope that this doesn't sound just philosophical concept. It is a real concept, right? Because we know that soul virtually exists. Basically there is a conservation of soul and conservation of other substance. no substance basically gets destroyed. Nothing gets newly created. It just changes its shape or form, right? So we know that okay, now we know that our existence will be there in some one or other form. But since we think of ourselves as a body, we have this whole range of attachment and fear due to that. And since we have fear of death, all the other fears are also exist. So then we have fear about attachments of other things, losing family, losing other things. And think about this wrong belief that leads us to what type of kashaya? We are so much attached to our body that if you think about it, we are even willing to take medicines to save our body that are made from other animals' blood and flesh. We are so much attached to our body that we are okay to basically kill someone or use substances that are made by killing someone, and still we want to save ourselves. That's the level of intense kashayas this wrong belief takes us. I mean, if we were to really in reality believe ourselves as a soul, if we truly had that experience, truly had that conviction, would we do that? Would we ever do that?
No, Prerit, we won't do that. If really, if that thing is under our belief,
Yes.
so
So it's
essentially
so
that.
much embedded. Yes. So it's so much embedded into our belief that we are body, and think about the reasons for it. Up until now, we cannot see soul because soul is not visible, Jeev is not visible. Uh, since time infinity, all we have seen around us is our body, which is what we see and which is what we experience. We think we experience, and uh, and that's what people have been calling us, that this is ours, right? And we have been calling ourselves. So this belief exists since time infinity, and it gets reinforced every single day, every single moment, right? Every moment as we think of ourselves that this is me, this body is mine, we are reinforcing it. Even when we are not thinking about it, we are reinforcing it by just continuing this belief. Does that make sense? So now the key question is who we really are. Who we really are. We are, as shown in the documentary, we are actually a Jeev substance. We are a soul, which is basically full of knowledge, belief, conduct, happiness, and so on, infinite attributes. And each of these infinite attributes have infinite potential in it. Although right now we don't have infinite knowledge, we have a potential to express infinite knowledge. And we don't fully understand that. And that's why it appears to us as just a philosophical or theoretical concept. In reality, it's just a fact of nature that we don't understand. But now, there's another dilemma that I want to point out. If we call ourselves soul, if we call ourselves as a soul, right, then what happens? Can we identify ourselves as a Prerit or Himal or Nishit? What about our society, our communication with the society? I mean, how are you going to run, I mean, your day-to-day communication or day-to-day transactions with the rest of the world? You can't go out there and tell I'm soul, I'm not this. What about that?
Well,
So
there's
then,
there's the absolute point of view versus relative point of view, right?
and what is absolute point of view and what is relative point of view?
So absolute point of view is something you always keep in the back of your mind. Uh, you're constantly always, ideally, you'll always be aware of that I'm not this, but for day-to-day purposes, you are this identity.
But Nishit, then someone may come and question, right, that you guys have a duality of opinions. You think about, for something you think about something else, and for some other purposes you think about something else. You don't know the reality, and basically someone may accuse us as hypocrites. You don't have the reality, you don't know the reality. You don't have fixed opinion about something.
Well, but if there is an ekantwad in for real, then that is what it is, right?
That's the biggest fallacy about an ekantwad. That a lot of times when we think of an ekantwad, we think that this is also right and that is also right. Okay, so let's cover that topic a little bit. Okay, think about any substance, right? Any substance, like for example, matter, any particle. So from the perspective of its infinite attributes, attributes are permanent. Everyone agrees. The attributes can never be destroyed. Like the touch, taste, color, smell, they will never go away from a particle, although they may change. Right? Or there's still confusion on this?
No, that is correct.
Okay.
That is true.
Now from the perspective of modifications or paryas can continuously change. Is that correct? You agree with that too? So you can say that from the perspective of paryay, everything, the matter is transitory or temporary. And you can say from the perspective of the attributes, matter is permanent. That's a duality of opinion. They're both right, but from a different angle. So to fully understand the reality, whether the substance is permanent or temporary, we have to consider both of this opinion. And when we talk about one, we are simply not talking about other. We are not necessarily saying the other opinion doesn't exist. We're simply not talking about it. We're talking about one angle at a time. To grasp a reality fully, we are basically talking about two different perspectives, and as a whole, that consists of truth. If you think about it, Anikantvad applies in a single substance. You know, when we talk about, remember, has everyone heard that example of elephant? That there are 7 blind people touching different parts of animal, and people were saying, one person says, okay, I see elephant as a pillar. Other one says, I see animal as a string, or the elephant as a string, so on. And then some other person from outside comes, and you all write from your own individual opinion, but the reality is as a whole. So now this example gets misused in one way. Okay, in that example, everyone was talking about elephant only. Okay, we were talking about different aspects of elephant. They were talking about elephant only. Similarly, when we talk about Pudgal substance, we're talking about just Pudgal matter only. And we're talking about the different perspective within one substance. But in that example, no one said that this is a horse also and this is an elephant also. If someone were to say that, okay, this is a horse, it would be totally wrong thing, right? So Anekantvad doesn't mean that every opinion out there is correct, or every opinion out there consists of reality. It does completely and absolutely distinguishes between absolute truth and something that is not absolute truth, that is untruth. All it says is to grasp the complete reality, you have to consider all the different perspectives, and all the different angles of that substance basically consist of the reality or the truth. That's what Anekantvad says. Anekantvad doesn't say that all the opinions are. So if someone were to come and say that this elephant is a horse also, that's not what Anekantvad says, right? It doesn't make sense.
Yes.
So now let's apply this principle to basically our day-to-day life. I want to clear out the difference between absolute and a relative perspective. Then, as Nishit pointed out, absolute perspective that we look at from, it talks about the fact of nature as it is. It describes the truth as is. We are looking at, we are soul, we are telling ourselves that I am soul. I identify myself as soul. While the worldly perspective or practical perspective, or in Jainism it's called Vyavharne. Absolute perspective is called Nishchayane. But worldly perspective or practical perspective is called Vyavharne. From Vyavharne, we talk about ourselves as I'm being created, I'm as a body, I'm engineer, I'm a father, or whatnot. We talk about this worldly roles, and we identify them as ourselves. So let's Look at the difference between them. Forget about these viewpoints for a minute. In real life, we are like, for example, let's talk about an example. Ankita, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so Ankita, in your professional life, who you are as a professional?
I'm an auditor.
You're an auditor, okay. Who you are from the perspective of Kinjal?
From the perspective of
Kinjal.
India?
No, Kinjal
Oh,
Muta,
Kinjo. Oh, Kinjo. Yeah, sister.
sister. Who you are from the perspective of your husband,
Wife.
wife. All right, so then your wife also, your sister also, you're a professional also. How come they all happen at the same time?
Yeah, you just keep switching hats per the
Hats.
situation.
Exactly. But keep in mind, even though you are a professional, even though you are a sister, even though you are a wife, at the same time, who you are is you are still a human being, right? In all those phases too.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any contradiction of you being a human being as well as you being a wife?
No, it's just different perspectives.
Just a different perspective, right? So I would like to add one more dimension here, okay? But so, okay, what you're doing is when you're performing or when you apply a relationship or a particular angle, relativeness into your identity, then you're identified as a wife, as a professional, or as a sister. Is that correct?
Right.
So all those roles and hats are basically come from the relativity.
Mm-hmm.
If you talk from just for this particular example, if you don't want to talk about relativity, right? If you don't take example, if you don't take relativity of your sister, then you are not going to be sister, right? If you don't take relativity of your profession, you are not going to be called professional. If you don't take relativity of your husband-wife relationship, you are not going to be called wife. At the same time, there is one identity for which you don't need any relativity, and that is you being a human. Is that right? It doesn't need any relativity.
Okay.
Does it make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
Now I would like to add one more dimension here, okay? Although we may be human right now, although we may be a professional, we may be a father, we may be a husband, we may be a brother or sister. At the same time, just like we are human is also a relative form actually. Because as we know that this change of form can occur from one birth to another birth. So we may change our form from human to some other form, or at least human to human too in a different body, right? So in reality, we are soul. From the perspective of who we are, from the birth point of view, from the relative point of view, we can be identified as basically a human or from animal, or then within the human form we take another hats as a professional, husband, wife, all those. So is there any contradiction of we being a soul in reality, but from relative point of view we can be identified as a professional, as a husband, as a wife? Is there any contradiction?
No. I guess no. No.
There is no contradiction, right? Because
No.
even though when you're at work, you can be identified as a professional. When you talk from the relationship point of view, you can be identified as a sister. It doesn't
Right.
change the fact that you're still a human. You
Right.
don't need to mention that. You don't talk about yourself as a human. You talk about yourself from the perspective of the hat you are wearing at the moment, which is you call yourself as Ankita, or you call yourself as wife in that relationship or whatever. So it's nothing wrong. That's the way our worldly convention and worldly communication goes. And we identify from the perspective of the uh, relative role that we are playing at the moment, and we talk from that perspective. There is nothing wrong, although it doesn't change the fact who we are in reality. So nothing is contradictory. Absolute viewpoint can exist simultaneously. The worldly viewpoint, the practical viewpoint also exists. But keep in mind, the practical viewpoint is only there for communication. I mean, if you think about the relationship as a professional, so that relationship is not permanent. Suppose if you were to change your profession tomorrow, you won't be called auditor. You would be called whatever profession you pursue. So if you identify yourself permanently as one professional, that would be incorrect belief. Because profession, you only call that particular professional only when you are in that role. If you step outside of that role and change your profession, you won't be called that. Similarly, but regardless of whether you change your profession or not, changing of the relationship or not, nothing changes the fact that you are a human being at the moment. And then besides that larger picture, nothing changes the fact that you are, you will, and you were a soul. You will remain a soul.
Right.
So the practical perspective is not the true identity of the person. It's just a relative identity, and it's just for the communication purpose. That's something we have to keep in mind. That doesn't tell us, the practical point of view is not telling us that it's the permanent identity. In fact, by introducing a relativity, the relative point of view is telling us that this is not the true identity. This is just the relative identity. So relative viewpoint reinforces the absolute viewpoint. Does it make sense? There is no contradiction. And Nishan, just to clear out this fallacy of Anekantvad, we are not necessarily saying that the practical viewpoint is also correct and the absolute viewpoint is also correct. We know that from absolute point of view, or from reality, from the fact of nature, this body is not our real existence. That's not who we are. But we know that since they exist together, for example, when you go to buy cookies, have you seen a real cookie that is inside the package, or have you seen just the package?
Just the package.
But just by looking at the package, you call that package the whole as a cookie, right? For your worldly communication.
Yep.
And you buy that cookie too. So just like that, you know that when there will be a time to eat that cookie, you're going to tear that package apart. You're just going to eat that cookie because that's what the real cookie is. Just like that, we know that this is just for temporary worldly communication. It's not the real fact of nature. So then Anekantvad in this case doesn't necessarily say that absolute viewpoint is also correct and the practical viewpoint is also correct. The practical viewpoint is basically circumstantial truth or the convenient truth. It's not the absolute truth. So most of the time what we do is we see things as either truth or untruth. In Jainism, there is a third category of this, which is truth, absolute truth. There is a convenient or practical truth, which is our circumstantial truth, and then third one is complete untruth. Does it make sense? And we are not necessarily compromising any beliefs. We are not necessarily compromising on the facts of nature, and they both exist simultaneously in their own with their own purpose. The purpose of absolute point of view is to make sure that we know our true identity and we know the truth. The purpose of the practical point of view is to basically facilitate our worldly behavior and worldly communication, although it's not the absolute truth. So let me take one more example. Okay, so we most of the time in our day-to-day life we use this sentence as "Give me a glass of water." We know that the glass is not made up of water. Is that right? Glass is made up of glass. So, but knowing this example, we still use the sentence "Give me a glass of water," meaning give me a glass full of water. So, if you know the true meaning of your statements, then yes, you are using them in the right manner. You are not speaking untruth. Suppose, say tomorrow some alien were to come to our planet and doesn't know the convention, the real meaning of our sentences, and he uses that sentence, that "give me a glass of water," and what he literally means is glass made up of water. And for him, that same statement would be untruth because he doesn't know the absolute point of view behind it. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Or is it confusing?
No, yes, it does make sense.
Did this confuse anyone? And if you have a confusion question, please bring it up right now. This is a very, very important topic.
So, Pradeep, just to extend your definition, so absolute truth always will be considered with reference to only one substance or one tattva, let's say, for example, right?
Correct, correct.
Okay.
Because the people often use this example of elephant in Anekantvad, people misuse it. A lot of times people think that, okay, Anekantvad means, people a lot of times represent it as that others can have a truth. Yes, others can have a truth as long as they're talking about the same substance from a different perspective. That doesn't mean every other opinion out there is true. Now, this may lead to another question, okay? There is a dilemma. Someone may come and question, Himal, someone may come question and tell you that, hey, Himal, since you are propagating and telling us that this is the only truth, and you're not necessarily accepting that all the other opinions out there are truth, and you're disrespecting others' opinion. Someone may come and accuse you that you're disrespecting others' opinion by just calling others' opinion untruth. They are really untruth. What would you say to that? Ritesh, are you there?
Yeah, well, in just like you when you're going to the doctor, you see a lot of different doctors, and even some of the doctor will give you some opinion. You'll go for another opinion, and you may follow the second opinion. It does not necessarily mean that you're calling the first doctor wrong. It's just that you think this is what you should do based on your knowledge, understanding, and that does not mean you're disrespecting the other person, the other doctor. It's just that what you think is right based on your understanding, knowledge, and analysis. You follow that way.
That's right. So a lot of times we have this belief that if we don't agree with others' opinion, or if we call someone other's opinion as wrong, then we are disrespecting that. Disagreeing and disrespecting are two different things. Just because we disagree with someone doesn't necessarily mean that we disrespect them. So let's look at this. In Jainism, when we studied this concept of substance, you know that every substance is independent in their nature, right? And no one substance can interfere with other substance, right? So what that means is every individual has a right to have an opinion. Whether right or wrong is a different story, but they will have their opinion, and there will not be any interference to that right of having an opinion. So long we recognize that right of having an opinion, we are respecting their right of having an opinion, right? There is no question of disrespecting them. Yes, but we don't necessarily have to accept them as a truth, or we don't have to accept that opinion as a truth if it's not truth. If it's truth, yes, we should definitely accept them. But it's our choice to basically agree or not agree with them. And just because we disagree doesn't mean it's disrespecting someone's opinion. As so long we are respecting the rights of having opinion, that is just to the theory of substance. There is no question about disrespecting someone's opinion, or even though we don't agree, they have the right to have a wrong belief if they have a wrong belief, and we ought to analyze every belief. We have to see if we are talking there, that person is talking from a different point of view or different angle of a reality. If that's right, then we have to accept it. But if sugar is sweet and someone is saying sugar is not sweet, sugar is salty, how can you accept that as truth? And how can you justify that as anekantvad? Because a person is talking about same angle of taste, and talking about the same substance, and talking about its truth is something altogether different. Can't exist, right? From a different angle, that could be this or right. So let me give you one more perspective about this opinions, okay? There are two types of things that can be debated in nature. One is objective things like facts of nature, like taste of sugar, or taste the properties or attributes of particles and stuff like that. Other type of matters that we can debate is basically relative or subjective things. Like suppose if I say that I like red color and you like blue color, there's no right or wrong about it, right? It's just the subjectiveness. It exists because based on the liking and dislikings of the person. And there is nothing right or wrong about it. It's simply subjectivity, complete subjectiveness. And there is no talk about right or wrong there. The other angle is a relative angle, where like suppose you are going to buy a car, you are looking from three different perspectives. Suppose you are looking from a cost perspective and you want particular facility in there, you're looking at the company. And I'm looking from a performance standpoint, and I'm looking from the appearance standpoint. And I may come to a different decision in terms of what I want versus what you want. That's a relative angle. And right or wrong becomes relative depending upon what criteria you apply. So in those two, it's a relative thing. You're not necessarily the real absolute fact, absolute matters, absolute facts that we talk about. In that, there cannot be multiple rights. There can be multiple there can be multiple realities, multiple truth from different angles, but from one angle, there is only always one truth. Does it make sense?
Yes, Pareen.
Any other questions here? So keep in mind, here we have just talked about this root cause of having this wrong belief. We have not quite talked about. We have talked about right now. We can say that we know that right belief would be that I am a soul in reality. That would be the right belief. But we haven't quite talked about how we get to that belief, right? That would be something that we would cover under the management of stress. Here, let's just know what's wrong and what's right. Okay. Next is basically Mithya Darshan, belief of Mamatva, ownership. Mithya Darshan, wrong notions about what he can and cannot possess, leads worldly Jeev to stress about its possessions. And there are four types of wrong belief of ownership. Belief of possessing external objects, which is something of liking. Belief of possession of external objects being taken away. Belief of getting rid of external objects of dislike. And belief of being with external objects of dislike. So we think that we can possess the house, we can possess this body, we can possess our family, we can possess the property, we can possess the ornaments. But in reality, can we establish a relationship of just like that we have with our soul, like a permanent relationship, like that we have with our attributes of knowledge, belief, conduct, and happiness? Those type of attributes will always stay with us forever. Just like the sweetness of sugar cannot be separated from sugar, it's a permanent relationship. That's the true relationship of ownership. It's a true ownership. Can we ever establish that type of ownership with external objects, including our body? Can we ever do that?
No, Pareen, we cannot.
So if we cannot do that, then that is not a true ownership, right? A true ownership is what we can truly possess, which is our own attributes that we possess, and that can never be taken away, and that can never be destroyed of. And that's something that is not our true possession. We can never make it ourselves. We can never establish a true relationship, and we can never possess it. So, from a worldly point of view, again, we are going to apply a practical point of view here as well. From practical perspective, we can say that, okay, this is mine because we have attachment and it exists around us. So with that circumstantial truth in mind, we can say that, yes, this table is mine, this house is mine, this family is mine, and you ought to have that point of view for worldly communication. But in reality, you don't have to think of them as a permanent true ownership. We are not the true owner of those things. Those things are not in our control. So all these possessions, they're simply there by just the circumstantial point of view. And it's a worldly communication that we call them ours. And it is necessary, because if you don't even recognize worldly point of view, practical point of view, then there will be a chaos, like an animal world, right? animal world. Anyone comes in and basically takes away each other's thing. There is no concept of mine and yours in them. Everything is public property, and I'll use it if I want to. And that's how the conflict starts. So practical point of view has its own value, but it's not the absolute truth. The purpose of absolute point of view is to understand the truth so that we don't get stressed out. When we don't have those objects, or we don't then keep ourselves engrossed into the unnecessary worry of acquiring those things, basically. So that's a perspective for understanding, the absolute perspective. Does that make sense? The key question is, the person who does not know, who is in Mithya Darshan, who does not know the truth, does not really understand what can I possess and what can I truly not possess. And that leads us to stress about its possession. Any other questions?
Hey, Preet, I have a question.
Yes.
So, knowledge attributes. So right now, we do have the incomplete knowledge, and whatever we are discussing right now, sort of Swadhyay, it's again incomplete knowledge because we don't have a Samyak Darshan, right? So my
Okay.
question is this whatever the knowledge we are acquiring at this point of time, that will may carry with us, or they will definitely carry with us in the next birth?
So what happens is, most of the time, what you carry forward with yourself is, the thing. It's kind of like any other mode of knowledge, right? Like something, like say you recall something over and over again, memorize something, and more the practice you have, more you have thought about it, you may retain it for longer. Right? Now, but after a while, if you don't remain in touch with that things, just like we forget things over time, you may forget it. But things that have been experienced, they are hard to forget. So something that you experience, you maybe something like, for example, taste of mango. You may forget the name mango, but if you have experienced the taste of mango, then that basically the feeling, the taste, will never be forgotten. Although you may forget the name, but that particular experience will never be forgotten. So that's why what's recommended us is that this is all theoretical knowledge, and that's a first step we have to understand. But next step would be basically getting the sense of experience. And if we acquire that sense of experience, it will definitely carry forward with us and won't be easily forgotten. Real Samyak Darshan occurs with the sense of experience. This is just the theoretical knowledge, intellectual knowledge for now, but eventually we need to convert this into a sense of experience and conviction. Does that answer your question, Hema?
Yes, it does. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions? We're 11 o'clock, so we can continue next time now. Any other questions? Yeah, I definitely suggest you all to think about this. We have to apply this on ourselves. Okay, where do I have this belief? Where am I going wrong? Am I convinced about the whatever is presented here? If I'm not convinced, why am I not convinced? Where are my doubts? Clear it out, because if you don't, then there will always be confusion, and this won't help you. Only when you understand this clearly, then this will help you. And that's why we covered this topic of absolute versus relative viewpoint in detail today. That's very, very necessary. Okay, so if there are no other questions, we will see you all next time. Jainendra, thank you.
Jai Jinendra.
Thank you.